Hello and welcome to Shop Planet for July 19th, 2022. Man, the days are flying by. It's before you know it, it'll be August, and before you know it, the kids will be back in school. Well, listen, today we've got some exciting stuff to talk about. Last week's podcast, we talked a little bit about market updates. We are going to be hosting our market update and our economic review webinar. It's going to be coming up shortly. So look for the show notes here. If you're on our email newsletter list, you will get notification first, and you'll be ready to be signed up on that too. Chock full of stuff. And in addition to that, if you haven't checked out our resources page, it's shopplan.com/resources. There's one called the 5 hidden tax saving opportunities that could expire under, if you'll bear with me, under new laws. And there's another one on business escape plans, the 3 steps to your dream exit without compromising your life's work. So if you have not already checked those out, check them out. And if you're not already on the newsletter list, go ahead and get on the newsletter list. So when we're talking about financial planning, look, there's a lot of complexities involved. And there's a lot of intricacies involved. I get a lot of questions about these newer investments, and I've been asked about at cocktail parties and at barbecues and just in social events and in professional events. What about crypto, Neil? What about NFTs? And what about options and stocks and that are single stocks? And how do you decide how much to invest, where to invest, and how much risk to take? So I wanted to introduce you to this brief yet I feel effective conversation that I call sort of this 3-bucket approach. Shocker, right? I'm using buckets. So this 3-bucket approach to financial planning. And the idea is there are not necessarily like the right investments, the wrong investments, or good investments or bad investments. I mean, reality there is, but nothing's really good or bad. It's just a matter of making sure you're using it properly, right? So let me explain. I'm going to share my screen here for a second. So let's imagine that we wanted to just do the back of the envelope way of having this conversation. We're not going to create a financial plan on the back of the envelope, but it makes sense for us to be able to have a conversation on it, right? So as you're looking at this sheet of paper, let's imagine that there's 3 real phases to anybody's life, and their finances have to fit each of these phases. So when we think of these 3 phases, let's imagine that one is going to be your emergency bucket. You know, you can't have a conversation with me about buckets. And then let's just say we're going to have your lifetime bucket. And then we're going to have your legacy bucket. So we think of these 3 different phases in your life. Now, how does the stock market work? How does investments work? And what kind of rate of return do we need? Well, look, if we decided that we want to have, I'm just going to pick a number. Let's just say you wanted to have $70,000 in emergency funds. If I took that $70,000 and I stuck it under the mattress today, and then I came back 10 years from now and I said, I need that $70,000, is it still going to be worth $70,000? So yes, it's still 70, but that $70,000 is not going to buy me the same amount of healthcare. It's not going to buy me the same amount of groceries. It's not going to buy me the same amount of housing. So we need to earn something on that money just so we don't lose purchasing power. But what we want to do there from a market perspective is we want to make sure that we have a certain level of rate of return, but we can't take crazy fluctuations. On the next bucket, you might decide, you know what, I want to live off of somewhere between $15,000 to $20,000 a month. For some people, it might be less. For some people, it might be more. Well, look, we still want to earn something, but we can afford to take some market fluctuations here. We can afford to take some risks here going up and going down, because we might still be working. But if you're retired, maybe you can't take those same level of fluctuations. And that's where you want to know, well, how much of a downturn can we take? How much risk can we take in order to get reward? How much risk do we have to take in order to meet our life goals of $15,000 to $20,000 a month? And on top of that, where's that money going to come from? And then finally, from a legacy standpoint, you might say, look, there's this pool of cash that's there for a rainy day. That's not my emergency fund. There's a small likelihood that I'll even need it, but it's really there for the next generation. I'm a steward of this money for the next generation. There's a small chance I'm ever going to take it. For some people, that might mean life insurance. For other people, that might mean certain retirement accounts. For other people, it might mean a certain pool of cash, or it might mean businesses. But there we can afford to take higher risks, even if things go down, because we know over the period of time, our long-term prognosis is, hey, we are probably going to go up. And if it takes 10, 15 years to do that, that's okay, because we're going to be all right. And the goal here, the trick here is knowing How much risk do I have to take? Am I in my lifetime bucket here? Am I in my emergency funds here? Am I in my legacy funds here? So a lot of people will ask me, why are you against crypto? Why are you against gold? Why are you against silver, NFTs? And the answer is, I'm not. I just want to be very intentional about what it is you're investing for. If this is part of your legacy and you're probably not going to need it for the next 10, 15 years and you can afford to take risks on it, fine. Maybe that's a good place to have it. Do I want your emergency funds in such volatile investments? Maybe not. And from a lifetime perspective, if you think you're going to need a certain level of income there, well, let's make sure that we identify what level of risk we're taking for that income, if any, whether we're working right now, whether we're retiring right now, whether we're close to retiring. And let's also make sure from a tax perspective, when we're taking those funds, we're taking them from the right place. So it's important to have at least some idea of how your finances are being managed so you can manage them in the most effective way. Well, listen, if you haven't already caught this, on our resources section on our website, speaking of taxes, we have a resource right now called the 5 Hidden Tax Saving Opportunities That Could Expire Under New Laws. We'll drop the link in here in these show notes. And for those of you who are listening on the podcast, you can totally go to the podcast, go to our website and actually check out shahplan.com/resources. There's also one there for business owners right now called the Business Escape Plan. And that is the 3 steps to your dream exit without compromising your life's work. We are updating these resources rapidly. So there's going to be a ton more stuff on that website. Stay tuned here. And I'll also add, listen, if you're listening to this and you receive this video in our newsletter, thank you. Thank you for being on our newsletter. But also, you're probably listening to it about a week and a half after you could have listened to it. So if you haven't already liked us on Facebook or followed us on YouTube or connect with me on LinkedIn or there's another one that I'm missing there, Twitter, Instagram, we're out there on all that stuff. So like, follow, and whatever else you got to do on each social media platform, and you'll get the stuff in real time if you want to. Of course, if there's anything with which we can help, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm Neil Shah with Shah Total Planning. Thank you for watching Shah Planet. I look forward to seeing